Hey everybody, this is CM Punk with Brando.
Not only I'm just a fan of you and your wrestling work, but I've been so excited to hear how much of a horror fan that you are.
Let's talk about Star Wars.
I've never seen Star Wars.
What?
I know.
What?
I've seen Spaceballs like 100 times. Does that count?
When I saw Spaceballs in the theater when I was a kid, I was pissed.
Oh, yeah?
I was pissed. That's how much of a Star Wars fan I was. I was like, they're making fun of Star Wars?
Well, I'm Jewish and I like the Jewish humor. So one of these days, I don't know. I'll see you one of these days. I'm behind the times.
All right.
But as far as horror, I've already learned from other radio interviews that you've done that Halloween is your favorite of all time.
Yeah, easily.
But I'm curious, what was the first horror movie that got you into the genre? Because I'm huge, and I remember for me, it was probably Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
See, I wish I had such a distinct memory of like what the first horror movie I saw was, because I grew up in Chicago, so there was Sven Gulli, who would play monster movies on Sundays and Saturdays and stuff like that. And I had an uncle who would show me movies like Animal House when I was like 7 years old.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I remember seeing American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
And knowing, like, I should not be watching this movie, but that's the juice, right? You're a kid and you're like, hell yeah, I'm going to watch these movies I know I'm not supposed to watch. Mm-hmm. And I think American Werewolf in London, for how old I was like great gateway horror movie, you know, because it's a comedy, but it's a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And they hit you over the head with this gore out of nowhere sometimes. And like, even to this day, 2019, the transformation scenes in that movie are crazy. You know, this is how you learn about Rick Baker. And then you see Summer School with Mark Harmon, and there's two characters in Summer School that are like horror nuts. You know what I mean? So I was that little kid that was making my own fake blood. And
nice.
Yeah, that's who I was when I was a little kid. I was into everything that would get me beat up at that age that is now super cool in a multi-million-dollar industry.
I did the same thing too. I remember I put blood all over, to tie both things in together, blood all over my Macho Man wrestling buddy. Nice. And my mom thought something is wrong with me.
Yeah, I got the same thing. Yeah, my mom was like, oh, you're going to be a serial killer. And I was like, well, is that so bad?
How did you prepare for this role? Because you're obviously a horror freak. Was there any movie you watched or any certain character, like a Bruce Campbell? Because this has an Evil Dead vibe mixed in with Amityville Horror. So how did you prepare?
I didn't know how to prepare. I didn't know what I should or should not do. Mm-hmm. So I kind of didn't do anything. I think a lifetime of acting in the ring and being such a horror movie fan helped me prepare the most, you know. And then obviously I would have conversations with Travis Stevens about what he was looking for. And I think it was less about the character to me and more about the overall message of the movie, about, you know, maybe try to be a better person, you know. But, and I've only said this in one other interview, and I don't even think Travis knew this. I looked at the character of Don as somebody who, you know, he's not your typical bad guy. He's not on the screen purposely doing like all these horrible things. He's not Hans Gruber from Die Hard. You know what I mean? He's not like this nefarious, wringing his hands like, you know, bad guy. He's a guy who does bad things. And I look at another John Carpenter movie, one of my favorites, Big Trouble in Little China, and you look at the quote-unquote hero of that movie is supposed to be Jack Burton, but Jack Burton is absolutely not the hero of that movie. Jack Burton is the sidekick, and like that's the genius, and that's almost the joke of that movie. And it's what a lot of people didn't get when that movie came out. They're like, we don't get it. This guy's not the hero, but he's the lead. You know, but Yang's the hero. You know, Burton just kind of like fails and forward like the whole time. So I took that aspect of the character Jack Burton and I kind of put that into the character of Don with a little bit more of a dark slant.
Right on. I liked an answer you gave in a previous interview, and I feel the same way about why horror is my favorite genre. It's the special effects,
Mm-hmm.
because so much of CGI, it's made me enjoy movies less.
Yes.
So I will purposely go back and watch 80s horror. It doesn't matter how bad. So when you do a remake, which is coming up, by the way, of Rabid, the first one was great, the special with the special effects and all the blood and everything. Are you excited to? I don't know. Do you want to be true to the original and stick with that, or are you kind of will you embrace CGI if it calls for it?
I'll embrace CGI if it calls for it, but this is a Stan Lee quote, and I love this quote because his quote was in reference to digital comic books. You know, everybody's got an iPod or a tablet or whatever it is nowadays, and you can download an app and you can read comic books. And a lot of the editors at Marvel will always send me links to comic books when I'm writing stuff, and I read them on my phone or I read them on my iPad. And the Stan Lee quote is, "I like looking at boobs in a magazine, but I'd much rather have them in my hand." So I relate that to practical effects. You know,
I love it.
If you can see it and you can feel it,
Yeah.
it's just better. CGI, I feel when I go to see movies in the theater, CGI is brilliant, but the rewatch value is lessened because when you watch it at home, you don't have that technology of a certain projector and a certain, millimeter and screen and like all this stuff. And like the CGI to me, watching it on Blu-ray or whatever doesn't really hold up, but practical effects always will. That's why things like John Carpenter's The Thing, American Werewolf in London, those always hold up.
Right on.